I have indeed brought along such an outlook. Well, let me warmly welcome you again to this summit. I'm very happy that you should be here in such large numbers and that there should be hopefully many people at their screens at home as well. Peter just spoke about the societal dimension of open source, and I would like to go into more detail from the product side again, but I will try not to get too technical. If you are interested in that, you can go to the technical track. But here it's more about what we want to achieve with the products at Univention and where does the road take us going forward. I brought you along a couple of images. They're of course staged, but in principle there's just under 100 years between these two images. And if you take a look at these two images, you'll find, well, it doesn't look all that different. You can see the phone, you can see a keyboard with a typewriter. It all looks a bit well known. Well, because on the right-hand side, you still have a keyboard on the computer and a phone. So this working place looks very accessible again. But what you can see on the modern image is this stamp, for instance, and that is what it's all about, really. While on the surface, all that much hasn't changed. Everything has changed in the background, particularly when it comes to the topic of identity management, who is allowed to do what in the office, start or conclude what processes or administer them. Then the question is who is allowed to do it and who's can do it. And how can you exert control here? And this is where Univention products come into play by making identity management available. We have an incredible infrastructure in the background. In the past, there were a few telephone cables, roads, and you shifted paper from A to B. Now we have an entirely different world in terms of the technical requirements that we have and how these structures cooperate. Unfortunately, a lot of these structures have grown organically and they don't necessarily match what grows into your garden from outside with what you have in your garden. And it leads to a large variety, and that's where Univention comes into play. That's why we have this topic of identity management to motivate and make it available so that control can be exerted. Of course, it is absolutely indispensable that it be open source, because only with open source can you have digital sovereignty, i.e. the possibility of saying and seeing quite clearly whether the people who have access or want access to some software are the ones who are the only ones who are allowed to do this, and you can only do that if you have open source. And there's a lot of work that has gone into this over the last 20 years, and it's particularly crucial for the success of office work that this identity management be available and be ubiquitous. And this product has developed over the 20 years of existence of Univention. Of course, it developed in the environment of open source, where everybody has their own role to play, but Univention also has promoted technology. Let me mention the introduction of Samba 4 early on, which allowed for integration of Microsoft through coexistence, allowing for collaboration there. We were among the first who did this, making this technology available for the open source community. Then there's the App Center, which is kind of a cross-border commuter. It helps others to have availability, to have a low threshold to enter into new technologies. That's always been important for people. to have ease of entry into new technology, the ease of administration. Then there's an entire group of topics: file management, access rights, mobile device management. All of these things are all integrated by UCS, creating a central platform for administration and control. Then we have the topic of digitization at school. And Univention, I believe, has made a huge contribution to allowing for digitization here, for making it easy and for making it appropriate for schools, i.e. that schools can access it without having to make a choice among the large gamut available of products, which may not be appropriate, maybe too large, too oversized, or whatever. So we come into play here as well. Then we have ID Broker, and a very important topic because it ties data protection and identity management with each other. The possibility of pseudonymization of giving only enough ID information to other systems as necessary in order to protect data is very important, particularly in school systems, when it comes to protecting our children. And the ID Broker is just such an element that shows how identity management can be continued in the future, can be extended in the future, ensuring more structure. This encompasses the entire topic of federation. A lot has happened in this context over the last few years. Let me point out one more thing. In the performance, Univention has made its homework as well. There are systems that handle more than 30 million concurrent identities. That's, of course, a very special configuration, not applicable to everyone, but it shows how powerful this product is by now and how powerful it can be made. Right. After this short introduction, I would like to speak about the various components, give you a few highlights so you can understand where we come from and where we are headed. At this point, I would like to thank the development team and all the staff of Univention who contribute. It's sometimes hard to see what they do because software is intangible. You can't touch it, but it's great what they've achieved, and so I would like to thank everyone who was involved in this. Thank you. In order not to go into too much detail, I have broken it down into two dimensions: today and the future. So let's look back a bit. We had active maintenance of UCS 4. That has turned out to be a very mature product. It's at the end of its life cycle, and of course we started early on developing the successor version, UCS 5.0. So we have the Python 3 migration, which is a difficult task to achieve. This is not easy, with a lot of pitfalls and difficulties, but we managed. Modularization was promoted in order to reach smaller encapsulated units, and then the base, of course, underpinning it, Debian, we managed to stabilize this and to standardize our approach, improving portability. Now, the outlook is that we will upgrade the Debian base. We'll take it to the latest version, which offers a few additional positive aspects. Everything available on the platform will be operable. Then we will continue containerization. On-premise is, of course, something that we will continue, but container is one of the main technologies or structural characteristics that are really important going forward, and it includes the simple containers or Kubernetes, as a cloud solution, if you wish. And then we have the various components we have at UCS, and we'll make them available for this so that they can fully be embedded using the full potential of this platform. And a topic that we'll keep seeing is roles and access rights model. It's a very simple topic in structuring and distributing the potentials, and I'll get back to that later on. In the field of identity management, we have the self-service as a possibility. We have the Keycloack IDP as an app. It's an encapsulated module that can be exchanged if necessary. Then there's the topic of federated logins, and we have the web widgets, which are digitally spreading now. And then we have the possibility going forward of extending the Keycloack. We have a two-factor authentication in IDP, and all of those who want to have more options with the two-factor aspects, we have privacy components available. It's about the extension of the role and rights models, i.e. Introducing targeted structures that allow individual persons or roles or groups to have rights and roles allocated. That sounds very simple and straightforward, but it's a complex issue when it comes to creating certain quantities, certain volumes, groups, and to maintain these. So we had to invest into this. Then we have UCS apps and the dashboard, UCS apps with the dashboard, which shows what is the system doing, what's it busy doing. We have Microsoft Office 365 integration, which continues to be quite important for some schools. And we've introduced certain upgrades. That's what we've achieved so far, and this is the future now. So a dashboard based on Grafana, dashboard and monitoring, increasing potentially the performance of the dashboard. We will have ISV support. Then process automation, and of course the portal as the core aspect for the integration of software as a service or solutions that run on UCS directly. Then UCS at school, here we can see in terms of UCS 5, we are feature complete. That means that most functionalities that we have under UCS 4 are available under UCS 5 now. And we have the ID Broker launch. So in this quarter, it will be available as a component. And the outlook shows again that we're extending the role and rights model, also the accessibility, i.e. the field of support, particularly for handicapped people, visually impaired people, for instance. We want to improve that and then lean down the API for this purpose, and we will see an evolution for the ID Broker. That's very important to me to say this. We're not only in competition with VIDIS, we are cooperating with it. We will introduce as much of our ID Broker into this cooperation as necessary in order to make this topic possible for schools and students, and we will use ID Broker wherever it makes sense, where there is a need and where we see a potential, particularly when it comes to data protection, to improve services. So by way of conclusion, just to get back to the introductory image there, comparing the two workplaces, past and present. It's important that what we need are people who are digitally sovereign. And what we do is we offer a portal, as you can see it on the image, where you can get access without major efforts in your day-to-day work. Thus, it becomes a window to a digital sovereign IT. But we have more, as we discussed in the context of Phoenix. With the Sovereign Productivity Suite, we announced cooperation last year, and it happened, but it is a big topic, and it is helpful to have a partner to promote this. The Sovereign Desktop should have access to certain office products and other technologies. And here we had the Sovereign Productivity Suite, and the work that we did focused largely on the Phoenix project. You can see the other companies involved in the Phoenix project: Open Exchange, Nextcloud for the file services and other services. Then we have Element as a messaging backbone together with Jitsi. Those are important components that we need to bring together that increase integration so that usability in day-to-day work improves. And last but not least, let me say again, this environment of a sovereign workplace, of course, must not exclude the schools. We will not neglect the digitization of schools. On the contrary, we want to cooperate with partners in order to offer even more opportunities for schools, making it easier for digitization in schools to be successful. Well, that takes me to the end of my presentation. I would like to thank you very much for your attention. I would like to ask you about one thing. I am available all day long here and there, so please talk to me. I'd be happy to get to know you, to exchange ideas. Okay, in this sense, enjoy the day. Thank you.